So we're sitting around the fire here and retelling the human story from a perspective of non-duality. So first of all, non-duality would mean we're never fixed on an idea because we know that ideas only come from the mind. There's a true inner being of all of us that needs no idea to know. And there is a way to live in the world where our ideas are actually fluid enough, where we can create a beautiful world with each other and we can get along. So this is the point. This should be the ultimate point of non-duality, to find a way where we aren't stuck in our mind and our concepts because we know the center of ourselves, the place where we come from. So let's talk about the story of how we got here very briefly to this divided state that we live in, and maybe some clues as to how to get out. So we're told the story that human beings evolved from apes, and apes evolved from lizards, and lizards evolved from single-cell creatures, and they all came out of the ocean. And, then human beings also. We evolved from apes, and then we were cavemen, and then we finally got bronze, and we were the Bronze Age, and then we got a little smarter, and we were the Iron Age, and then we got a little smarter, and there was the Enlightenment. And we actually teach that human history began with the written word. So it's kind of this trajectory of us just getting smarter and smarter and smarter until now we're us. Reverse that. Basically, what that's telling us is that our ancestors were idiots that go back and back and back through the time of human history, and people get dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber until we're monkeys, until we're lizards, until we're just this dumb little no-brain creature floating in the ocean. So we see our past as this great ignorance. Let's change that around to where every single bit of it is brilliance. There wasn't a single moment where consciousness wasn't bursting forth in the life on earth. And particularly for human beings. Let's put an easy number on it. Let's say 100,000 years ago, we hit this final physical evolution that is us. And that those people then were brilliant, fully formed, awake human beings. And now we can start seeing the timeline in a little bit different of a perspective. Because we see 100,000 years, we see that for 90,000 years, we were able to live on the planet without the written word. How were we able to do everything we did? We literally started from Africa and walked around the entire planet. These primitive people that we usually assign as being really ignorant built incredible seafaring boats and sailed to Australia. People sailed across the Pacific, and people went from like Alaska down to South America because of their brilliant, highly evolved consciousness, where they were able to expand their understanding to the point where they could see waves and they could see directions, and they knew how to live inside the earth. They were literally living inside their food system. They were not separate at all from it. They were participants in the earth because they knew how to use their full consciousness. And it was only a few tiny years ago that what we call civilization came and taught us how to be divided from this world. And actually, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that civilization has dumbed us down, because it started teaching us that we could use this very small part of our brain that contained language and call that knowledge. They started defining everything rather than understanding everything. And so our consciousness got smaller and smaller until we are now in this state of confusion because we are so far removed from our roots. That's a different story, right? So if we start looking at ourselves with this different story, the way to start bringing ourselves back to ourselves, what we call enlightenment, the way to do that becomes more clear, because down in each of us is this awake, natural human being that we were born to be. Each of us has this capacity for this vast knowing that is way beyond what the textbooks can teach us, way beyond any verbal language knowledge. And if you sit with yourself for just a moment and start just appreciating the depth of your intelligence, you can start seeing this in yourself. All the things that you have learned, that you've really learned, have been learned in spite of language, not because of it. I mean, something as boring as math or history. Like math is a really good example. You learn, you have to memorize basic things. What's 2 plus 2? What's 5 times 5? All these simple things. But then as you start getting these concepts in your mind, you then start using them without thought in meaningful ways in your life. Like say you have a pie. There's 7 people and you want to cut the pie and give everybody a piece. You're not really thinking through the math of it completely, and it's like one person's a little kid. That person doesn't need as big of a piece of pie. One person's on a diet. They need a little piece of pie. So we're able to take our consciousness and use all these concepts that we've learned to live our lives. So we are way more brilliant than we give ourselves credit for. And when we retell our story to put ourselves into this timeline of magnificent humanity living in harmony on the earth for 100,000 years, then it becomes very, very simple to start seeing, oh, we can do that again easily. Even keeping all the knowledge that we have, just re-understanding our place in the world and who we are. And then this is exactly what non-duality is. This is exactly what enlightenment is, because it means coming back to yourself, becoming this fully awake human being that you were born to be. Yeah, you haven't lived the most perfect situation in every minute of your day, but so what? We're resilient, we're tough. We can overcome these things. So, rewrite that story to put yourself in this long, long, long timeline. And just because this is the way we're wired, you can start touching and learning from these ancestors of long ago. And when you put yourself inside that field of understanding, the world becomes broader and you fit in it better. And the more we're relaxed into that who we are as this expansive interconnected being, the closer we are to that moment of, oh, I'm me. I'm here. Everything, there's nothing, and yet there's everything. Nothing needs to be defined. And that's almost right there, the definition of enlightenment, that it can't be defined, doesn't need to be defined, because it's just right there.